everyone, this is Jennifer Schaus coming to you live from Washington, D.C. today, and thanks for joining us in our Webinar Wednesday series. We host a webinar every Wednesday the entire year. The full schedule is on our website, and all of the webinars are complimentary and recorded. You can find those either on our YouTube site or on our website under the archived webinar section. We bring in different speakers, and today at 12:30 we're going to be covering DCAA audits with Don Kenenitz of Eric Cohen CPAs. So our presenters are various industry experts, sometimes attorneys, accountants, and other professionals who are sharing their knowledge. As I mentioned, everything is complimentary. You can find all of the recordings on our website. Today's recording should be available by close of business tomorrow. Quick blurb about us. We are based in downtown DC and provide professional services for companies, both product and services, that are selling to the government. We've got clients both domestic and foreign, small businesses, large businesses. We help them with anything from contract administration, subcontracting reporting, compliance, GSA schedules, proposal writing, capability statements, and more. Obviously, you guys know that we do host the webinars, and we've got some events and seminars and conferences throughout the year. You can find all those on our website under the events section. So quick background here on myself, which is self-explanatory. And let's move into today's topic, which is best practices for GSA schedule proposals, specifically focused on professional services. So this presentation today is geared for anybody that is providing direct services, not products, to the government, particularly labor categories. So any sort of job title with an hourly rate associated with it. So we're going to go through just 4 quick components. First, what is a GSA schedule? The pieces that make up the proposal, some best practices, again, geared towards professional services, and then I'll make some concluding remarks. We don't take questions, just to keep these short. So if you do have questions or you need help with putting together your company's proposal, or maybe you've submitted one and was rejected, we're happy to help clean that up and get it resubmitted for you, or any modifications or audits that you may be encountering. So first of all, what is a GSA schedule? It's a contract vehicle. It's one of many, many ways that the government purchases. It's really only used about 10% of the time. And you'll see that GSA schedules are referred to MAS, multiple award schedule, meaning there's multiple awards, multiple companies that hold GSA schedules. In total, there's approximately about 18 to 20,000 companies that have a GSA schedule. You'll also see the acronym FSS, Federal Supply Schedule. But this is not required to do business with the government. It's only a feather in your cap. It's a marketing tool. It's one way to show the government that you are serious and committed to doing business with them. But more importantly, you should probably do some market research up front to find out who's your customer and what's their preferred method of purchase. Sometimes it's not the GSA schedule. GSA schedules can be used by all of the agencies, but sometimes agencies prefer their own vehicle, whether it's Navy Seaport E, NASA SOUP, and most agencies have their own. So it does come with terms and conditions because it is a contract. It is a 5-year contract initially, so once you get that award, you're good for 5 years, as long as you are bringing in at least $25,000 per year through your schedule. You may have a $5 million contract with the Army, but if the Army didn't purchase your services through the GSA schedule, GSA won't care. There is a grace period that first 12 months, so $25K the first 2 years, and then $25K every year thereafter. If you do meet that requirement, then you'll go through those first 5 years. There's then a renewal period. There are actually 3 renewal periods. So start to finish, the GSA schedule can be a 20-year contract for you. At the end of the 20 years, you are able to then download the solicitation for the GSA schedule that's applicable to you, reapply, and get back on. But the primary focus of the schedule is GSA securing your lowest prices and more or less locking them in. That way, when agencies are purchasing from you through the schedule, they know that they're getting your best prices, and they don't have to go through the negotiations with that. I sometimes refer to the schedule as a vendor shortlist. Companies, again, that have been pre-qualified allows the government to buy directly from you without going out for bid at certain dollar thresholds. Those thresholds are determined by the schedule that you're on, but actually more specifically the special item number. So within every schedule you have a SIN number, special item number, that further identifies your service, and each SIN number will have a dollar amount associated with when they've reached that threshold. The government would then have to go out and look for additional bidders. You can do some scouting for competitors and just to see what's out there on the GSAadvantage.gov site. There's another site that I'm going to mention in a moment that will help you do some analysis, preferably before you decide to go down this path, to look at other companies' prices for their professional services. So as we continue talking about what is a GSA schedule, you do need to submit a compliant, preferably also competitive proposal to GSA. You'll then negotiate with GSA on your prices, and they're going to go through two litmus tests. The first one is looking at your internal discounting policies and procedures. This is which type of customers, whether it's a category or a specific customer name, that you give your discounts to. So it could be maybe you're dealing with state and local government, you just automatically give them a 5 or 10% discount off of your commercial rates. Or maybe every time you deal with Raytheon and you're a subcontractor to them, you give them a 3.5% discount. So again, it could be a category of customers, meaning state, local, nonprofits, educational institutions, and universities, or it could be a specific customer by name. And this may vary on each of your labor categories. So you may have project managers, program managers, systems engineers, architects, whatever it is that your services are, and each labor category may have a different, we'll say, most favorite customer that's getting your best discount. So you'll have to disclose that information in your proposal. The second thing GSA will do is look at other GSA vendors providing the same or similar services, with all things being equal. So for example, if you've got a project manager with minimum 5 years of experience and then on education as a bachelor's, and you're proposing to GSA a rate of $78 per hour for your GSA rate, GSA will go onto a website called calc.gsa.gov, and they're going to plug in those same parameters: program manager, 5 years experience, bachelor's degree. And if the average GSA schedule holder has a rate of let's just say $65 per hour, and you're proposing 78, GSA will more or less not accept that $78 rate. So this is why it makes good sense to do some homework before you go down the path, and then you learn that your rates are way too high. You would never be profitable on this schedule. Or perhaps you can live with those lower rates, but do that research and homework up front. So you've got three components of the proposal. The main component, the administrative, technical, and the pricing. The administrative is pretty much the same for product and service companies, but you're going to have your SAM registration. You need to make sure that your NAICS codes match to the exact ones that are listed for the particular SIN number that you're pursuing. You're going to have your last 2-year financial statements as well as year-to-date, and make any notations of any previous schedules that you've had, anything else that you're currently pursuing, and any time that in the past you may have been rejected by GSA. You also need a copy of that rejection letter if that is that applies to you. So that's the administrative. Next is the technical. 4 main pieces here. You've got a corporate narrative, which you will explain the type of work that your company has been doing, how many full-time employees you have, and other information about your business. Quality control, pretty much just that, information about the quality control measures that your company has in place and how that will roll into a potential GSA schedule process for you. Next is the past performance. These are going to be copies of contracts as well as narratives relevant to the SIN number that you're pursuing. For IT services, you'll need 3 contracts. If it's outside of IT, you only need 2. The last component here is the Open Ratings survey. Open Ratings is a privately held company. They will survey 6 of your hopefully happy customers, and those customers are going to fill out a survey based on your customer service, your pricing, your timeliness in responding to customer inquiries, and so forth. Those customers should and need to include everyone that you used for your past performance, plus any additionals to make the minimum of 6. I think the maximum is 20. That report is going to cost you about $200. It's only good for a year. The last component of the schedule is the pricing. Again, the most important and most focused part of what GSA is looking at in your proposal. Again, we're focused on professional services, so you will need to list all of your labor categories, the job description with them, the minimum education, and the minimum years of experience. We talked about those 2 litmus tests that GSA will conduct. The first, again, being that internal CSP, which is the commercial sales practices form, and then your external is kind of doing that due diligence and homework on other companies and the average rates that you'll find on the GSA for GSA schedule holders. You'll need invoices for each of the labor categories that you're proposing, showing those exact dollar amounts that you had billed in the past. If you got a program manager and your commercial rate was $102.37, you'll need an invoice to demonstrate that you have billed that program manager at $102.37. A lot of times companies get tripped up here because maybe they have a firm fixed price contract versus time and material, so they've just got a lump sum. But just simply add an Excel spreadsheet behind that to break down the labor categories that were used, their hourly rate times the number of hours, and the total, the sum of those labor categories, their hourly rate times the number of hours they worked, should match exactly with that front invoice from whatever that monthly firm fixed price is that you're billing. So, for example, if you're billing, let's just say $25,000 exactly every month for 12 months, and you've got a couple of labor categories behind that, those labor categories and their hourly rates times the number of hours that they work that month needs to equal exactly that $25,000. For anyone providing non-professional titles, a lot of times this will be the HVAC, non-professional jobs. You'll need to pull up Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Table 5, because the Service Contract Act will apply to you. So be sure that you include that information. Then the biggest piece here is going to be the price proposal. You'll list your commercial rates. You'll list your most favorite customer, so who's getting the best discount, and then your proposed rate to GSA, which typically is going to be lower than your commercial and lower than your most favorite customer. Again, this is the whole impetus of the schedule. So that commercial sales practice, this is again the first litmus test, the internal piece that GSA goes through. And so they want to ensure that GSA is getting your best price regardless of quantity or terms and conditions. A lot of times companies will often check the no and explain why maybe there was a spot discount to another customer or any irregularities that you may have with your pricing. As long as you've got justification there, you can usually make that fly. This is just more language and verbiage from the CSP, and you'll list here who your most favorite customer is, the discounts they received, and GSA will bounce this up against the proposed prices that you were offering to them. The last piece of the CSP, again, this is that first litmus test that GSA does on your internal discounting policies, and they want to know if you're ever offering anything that's outside of your standard discounts. So maybe you gave a 15% discount one time to Coca-Cola just to have this flagship customer, or maybe you gave a one-time 8.3% discount to ABC Company because you had just started your business and you needed to have some revenue and get some traction. So this is where you would make those disclosures. Here's a screenshot of the calc site, which is something that we use on a pretty regular basis to conduct market research on competitors and making sure that your rates fall within the areas that they should. So it's pretty user-friendly. It's a public site available to anybody, and here's where you would plug in at that top search labor categories tab. You would type in program manager. Along the right-hand side, you've got different filters that you can use, and that's where you would put in the minimum years of experience and the minimum education. Click on search, and it's going to give you the average GSA rate. Below this, and I didn't do the full screenshot, but below that you would have a list of all the companies that are providing program managers and their rate linked to their schedule and their full pricing. So you can get pretty detailed there. It is, again, a great tool to use before you get onto the schedule. Here's just a screenshot of what a sample price proposal might look like. You've got your special item number. This obviously is 132-51. Far left-hand corner is where I am. I'm going to move across to the right. 132-51 is the special item number under Schedule 70. That special item number is for IT professional services. We've got a program manager. You can see the minimum years of experience, education, their commercial rate. State and local is the category of the customer that gets their best rate, which is a 5% discount. And we're going to offer GSA an extra 1% off of that most favorite customer discount. Gives you $94. And then with GSA, you need to pay them the industrial funding fee, which is 0.75%, so less than 1%, but still an accounting piece that you'll need to deal with. And you'll pay that quarterly fee to GSA. So GSA, looking at this, realistically speaking, would potentially come back and ask for greater discounts because the rate that they're going to be paying, the $94.71, is just a few cents off of the most favorite customer rate. Additionally, what else might GSA come back with? It depends on what they came up with on the calc site. So if everyone else is showing an average rate of $100 for the program manager, GSA could let this fly. If using, again, those same parameters, bachelor's degree and 5 years of experience, and everyone else shows an average rate of $85, GSA will try to negotiate you down to that. So again, can't repeat enough, use that site prior to getting onto the schedule to make sure that your rates are competitive before you go down this path, because it's a big time effort, a lot of writing that goes into the proposal, and you want to make sure that it's in your best interest, not only on the pricing piece with margins, but also making sure that your customers are actually going to use the schedule. So your GSA schedule rates are only a price ceiling or a not to exceed rate. So once you're on the schedule, you'll start bidding for work, and you will still potentially need to rate proposals, but you're going to be offering rates lower than your GSA rate, which means your margins, again, are going to be a little bit smaller. So again, make sure that this is in your customer's preferred method of procuring goods and services. Some best practices. I'm not going to read the first bullet because I've said that enough. You do want to make sure that you've got some opportunities in your pipeline before you go down the path. Anyone that you're talking to that's in your pipeline currently, you could start talking to them and saying, hey, we're potentially going to be applying for a GSA schedule. Would that help you or give you an incentive to purchase from us? If they say no, you may want to potentially reevaluate your decision and your choices for trying to use this contract vehicle, because again, there are many, many other ways that the government purchases. Once you're on the schedule, you'll start receiving dedicated GSA RFPs and RFQs. And these are going to be specific to your special item number. Nobody else will see these, just the other companies that also hold that have been awarded those special item numbers. So a smaller group for competitive purposes. This isn't, going to go out to the world, and you would need a GSA schedule in order to bid on those. A lot of companies think, oh, once we get onto the schedule, we're going to have all these RFPs and RFQs coming to us from GSA, and that's going to fill our pipeline. But the reality is you should be really in the beginning stages of an opportunity of an RFP, which is just building those relationships, and it takes 12 to 18 to 24 months to really build a solid network and have a relationship build into an opportunity that you can potentially bid on that would more or less be kind of steered in your direction. So don't rely on those as your pipeline. That would be bullish. You really need to be proactive versus reactive. Because there is so much public data, you can look at, if you're a small business, you can look at the other companies that are on the GSA schedule. You would obviously have access to their pricing because it's right there in front of you on both the GSA Advantage and the eLibrary site, as well as the Calc site that we just looked at. Look for all the companies that have an O next to their name on the eLibrary site. O means other means large. Large means they're going to have to parse out about 36% of their business to small women-owned, veteran-owned, HUBZone, 8A, and all the rest. Before you start reaching out to them, make sure that your prices are going to be in sync with their prices. And also do some due diligence, go onto their website, register as a partner to them. Most of the large businesses will have a portal on their site that says, click here, register here to be a small business subcontractor. Make sure you've got a dedicated capability statement in order to have a proper conversation with these companies as well, as far as partnering, teaming, and subcontracting with them. And you wouldn't need a schedule to really partner with these guys. They don't necessarily need to contract with other GSA schedule holders. So some pricing strategies that we use with our clients. Sometimes maybe they only have 5 labor categories and they've got some flexibility with firm fixed price contracts, where that spreadsheet behind can then include not just a program manager at $78 an hour, but multiple levels of project managers or program managers or engineers or architects or whatever your job titles are. So consider adding some levels to each of your labor categories, so you've got some flexibility when you are bidding for opportunities once you're on the schedule. And some concluding remarks here. Again, the schedule is not going to be for everybody. Currently, as I mentioned, about 18 to 20,000 companies hold the schedule. 63%, which is obviously more than half and quite a big chunk of companies, have 0 sales next to their name. That doesn't mean that they're not doing any business with the government, just means they're not doing any business with the government through their GSA schedule. If that's the case, GSA will send you a letter requiring that you submit some documentation to them, showing that you've bid on some opportunities, that you have a pipeline full of GSA potential opportunities, and maybe they'll let you stay on for another 6 months. But you really don't want to put the proposal together yourself or hire a firm like ours or consultants to help you with it, only to find that your customers don't use the schedule. Use the Calc site. Obviously, with lower margins on the GSA side, you'll need heavy volume, and that means a full pipeline. And that pretty much concludes it for me. If you guys do have questions about the schedule, any components of it, if you're getting requests from GSA for customer-assisted visits, which they call the CAV, which is more or less an audit, if you need help with a renewal, modifications, you're at the end of the 20 years and you need to reapply to get back on. If your business size is changing, you now need a subcontracting plan, we can help you with all of those things. This presentation will be up on our website, and the recording hopefully by tomorrow, close of business, at 12:30. So just in a few minutes, we're covering DCAA audits. Next week at 12 o'clock, we cover compliance programs. And then at 12:30, we'll go through the SDVO certification process, which is Service Disabled Veteran Owned. So thanks everybody for joining us, and hope you'll join us at 12:30 today for DCAA audits. Thank you.